really appreciated, I mean, the four speakers we had before, and they shed some light on countries and situations I was not really acquainted with. So I discovered quite a few situations, and I knew a little bit of Italy, but France, Spain, United States, but I never went on the side of Prussia and Sweden. So it was really interesting to me, and which shows the cultural and historical dimension of the avenue. And as far as I'm concerned, then I would like to, well, not nearly necessarily conclude, but at least conclude this session on this topic regarding beauty of the avenues. I would like to say that it was not only a consequence. Beauty was not only a consequence, not only the feeling that the observers experience regarding the development of these areas. I mean, beauty has for a long time, the beauty of the avenues have always been deliberated, anticipated, and expected, as Chantal said. And it is also supported by theories on this beauty through various aesthetic doctrines which have been published and debated for centuries, and mainly around the garden, art of garden. So I heard Chantal's reference, but I found something even earlier in time, and in the Magnificat d'Alberti, he describes the beauty of the ways, quoting antique ways, saying that it was planted. And we also find with the Palladio, 1 century later, I mean, we have some quotes saying telling about the way we should plant the various ways. And Palladio, who himself, developed some avenues linked to palaces or dwellings. And so in a tree alignment, and Jürgen referred to it, and which is the trademark of the various routes and the various ways from the beginning of the 18th century. And their beautiful aspect actually was perfectly looked for, because here there's a statement by Philippe Horry saying that you see when there is more than one option for alignment, it is important to compare the benefits at the expense, and if the most beautiful is not the most expensive, or even if it's only slightly exceeds the expenses of the other, this should always be preferred. Anyway, I mean, we hope that our engineers have progressed in this direction. I imagine that they know how to depict, and they know depict the same way they could draw at that time. And obviously, I mean, the roads were planted by engineers, but also what you visited here. I'm showing you these nice pictures as a reminder of what we visited yesterday. So the question of the avenue, I mean, the avenue is really present, I mean, since the beginning of engineers training. So we can see this in these works by engineer students starting from the Ponts et Chaussées school, so civil engineering school. And so we can see that in the students' pictures and drawings, what Antoine Picon would call the obsessing image of the Jardin à la Française, so referring to Versailles and garden art. And so it is also explicit at that time, because here, I mean, talking about architecture, I mean, we have to look at the city like a forest. I mean, these routes of that one are the avenues of that other. And so it is not only a kind of historical view, but this reference to gardens was very present at that time. So the avenue is present everywhere, but also sort of planted avenues were drawn, and this is the typical picture we see from the hand of Notre. And there are five or five pictures, and so we can see his co-workers. I mean, he traced one line with alignment of the avenue, but these are sort of planted avenues you can see from the way leading to Versailles in Paris. And so we have a kind of garden world and street world, but we have the same knowledge field and same objects or same artifacts we could deal with. Of course, I mean, in the garden treaty, there will be a lot of prescriptions to describe or prescribe the characteristics aiming at embellishing the avenues. So I give you some quotes here you can read on the slides, which are I'll show you my book later on because I mean it's a bit quick to translate all at once. So what happens in the 17th century is that the garden avenue, we have two examples, Versailles. And Le Nôtre deals with the garden in the western part, but he also designed the city in the western part with tridents, with planted avenues, which are important landscape pieces with 4 tree lines, which are really famous. And of course, I mean, in Paris, our Italian colleague, I mean, spoke about the Champs-Élysées, which are nothing but the central axis of the Tuileries. And so we call it Avenue des Tuileries, actually, which is going to go through Paris. And it had to be a kind of a 3-point area reaching to the Faubourg Saint-Honoré, which was never completed. Here is the Cour la Reine, which was the southern part of this triangle, in a way. And of course, I mean, in a more global way, then the avenues will be set up around the boulevard. We spoke about this for Italy also. And the boulevard word, actually, to start with, I mean, boulevards, I mean, the beginning meant the fortifications, and Luc also spoke about it, talking about these first boulevards which were implemented. And this is how this model is going to spread. And beyond the capital, just like in big cities, and so they're going to develop ornament urban planning, which is just avenue projects on the edge of the cities rather than inside the city itself. And so not far from here in Toulouse, for example, you have this famous star from Louis de Mondrian, with the various avenues gathered around this shape, this rounded shape. And so this is a tradition which is going to last, and I like to include, I mean, the Haussmann Paris, that is the prefect Haussmann, asking Alphonse, I mean, coming from Bordeaux, I mean, who is known for his passion for trees, and we're going to call him the gardener, actually, so enthusiastic he is regarding trees. And so I spoke about the French tradition, but also, I mean, we'll find this, I mean, all this knowledge also appears in the Anglo-Saxon tradition, in the picturesque gardens, with doctrine more in depth than in the French culture. Though, I mean, we will prefer the meandering avenue because we'll criticize the monotony of the straight line. So here with Recton, we can see ways of adapting to the straight line heritage, either to try and turn them into sort of irregular lines, irregular roads, and Later on, in the United States, with Olmsted and Frederick Olmsted and Carl Barlow, that we will invent the parkway. And the parkway, which is a landscape avenue from the park to cross the city. And this is the first parkway which leads Prospect Park to Brooklyn, and which would be called Eastern Parkway, as you can see here on the picture. So here are the first pictures. And so the parkway will be defined as a kind of a big avenue, spreading and connecting all the elements of the big city. And at the end, it says that they should contain 6 tree lines. Well, hopefully it's sufficient for you. But anyway, we can see all these projects developing later on in the fourth quarter of the 19th century in the United States, which are sort of elements, avenues, connecting parts at various scales in the whole city, and with one project being the one of Boston. It's huge, actually. So the parkway, Olmsted is going to work on the residential avenue with his Riverside project, which is one of the biggest landscape prototype, which is built along planted avenues, which is the main element in this landscape, and to which we add up gardens and these dwellings without a fence in the American way. Now, all this know-how, American know-how, is reproduced in France in the garden art. We have the Treaty of the Art des Jardins at the end of the 18th century, so at the end of the 19th century. And so we would find ways, sections on this famous parkway, which was invented by Olmsted, who took his inspiration in the Impératrice Alphon Avenue in Paris, among others. So we would think that the car is going to lead to the end of this interest for the avenue. Not at all. On the contrary, the car, as opposed to the railway, which had a different impact on the roads to privilege the rail, actually. The development of a car industry in the 20th century then allowed us to sort of rethink this national network of planted avenues. And you can see the illustration associating car and tourism. Tourism and car means planted avenues. And so the car is very much linked to the tree avenues. And at that time, there's a project, the Côte Varoise, Côte d'Azur Varoise, by Henri Prost, to preserve the landscape, the Côte Varoise, and prepare tourism. And this project was mainly developed in terms of planted areas to diversify the landscape. So what is also astonishing is, the first highway projects raised the question of planted trees, and is all the reflection of Alvin Seifert, who is the landscaper regarding the motorways in Germany in the 30s, the Autobahn. We call it. Now in Italy also, the landscaper, tried to think about trees and motorways in 1937 with this article where we can read that the entire nation should be a garden. The roads are edged with trees and creating real elements of the landscape. And so there's this kind of aspect that is turning the roads into gardens. And we also find this in France in 1950, for example. André Vera, a landscaper, wrote a book and promoting the trees being planted along the railroads and also roads, so that France would be a nice garden. But that was a kind of overview, a quick overview with some small ads, actually. I mean, if you want to know more about these elements and deepen your knowledge, there are some books being written on this topic. That's it. Thank you very much.